Mr. Habibullah, you mentioned 2002. Yeah, you mentioned 2002, and I want to ask you a specific question on that front, because I was going through the interview that you gave to PTI, and you seem to suggest in the vein of the interview was such that you hold Narendra Modi completely responsible for 2002. But as far as Rajiv Gandhi is concerned, you seem to be more officious in terms of putting the entire blame on him, saying that he wasn't in control at the time when the riots started. But my question to you is that reports suggest that Narendra Modi government had tried to control the riots in 2002. There were at least 300 rioters who were killed in police firing. In contrast, not a single bullet was fired to check the 1984 Sikh riots. So how was Rajiv better than Modi?
No, I'm afraid you misinterpreted what I had to say. What I did say, and I said that at that time in 2002, there was a government that was fully in control. Whether Mr. Narendra Modi was responsible, I certainly did not say that. Mr.
No, but
Narendra
since he was
Modi
the chief minister, it is by implication that.
Yes, but so far. No, I don't. If you wish to imply that, if you wish to read that implication, then that's up to you. But the point that I simply, and that is a question of fact. The fact is that the government was in control. The fact is that meetings headed by the chief minister were held. I mean, what happened in those meetings are mentioned. That this has been a matter of controversy. Some people have said something, and some people. I don't want to go into that at all. It's just to illustrate the fact that there was a government that is a functioning government. In contrast, the government of India had just lost its prime minister, and a very strong prime minister, without whom normally decisions of this nature would not be taken. But still, there was action taken, but it was totally inadequate. And the fact is that soon after Rajiv became Prime Minister, the first thing that he did was, he wasn't Prime Minister throughout the day. On the 31st evening, he actually took over, and there were a host of problems that were confronting him. Unfortunately, and I can vouch for this fact, the flow of information was not constant, was not complete. I didn't realize till the afternoon of the 1st as to what was happening. And I was sitting in the Prime Minister's office. And this is a fact. I mean, you may say, you may construe what you wish from it, but the fact is that it was not flowing into the Prime Minister's office, the information, the extent, the enormity of what was happening. This all became revealed later. And the fact that it didn't happen, the fact is there was. And I don't think that you can say that the police didn't take any action, because as you know, in places like in Farash Bazaar, in Karol Bagh, also there was no incident at all. But in other areas, Trilokpuri, across the city, and the majority, there were such incidents, as if not only in Delhi. It happened in many other parts of the country also that this happened. But Delhi, it was of course a fulcrum, and most of the losses of life were in Delhi. The point that I would like to make here, and thank you for hearing me out, the point is that repeatedly we have had incidents of this nature. These are all, each one of them, a blot on the fair name of India, whether it is 1984 in Delhi and elsewhere, whether it was 1987 in Meerut, whether it was 2013 in Muzaffarnagar, whether it was 2002 in Gujarat, whether it was 1993 in Mumbai. All these, each of these have been inquired into. Each of these commissions have sat and brought out their rulings in which they've actually identified. In this case of the Sikh riots, 70 policemen were identified by the Mittal Committee as to having been involved. What action was taken? No action was taken. Similarly, these things are there. Now, what I could say has been positive in the developments that have taken place with regard to Muzaffarnagar in 2002 is that action has been taken against somebody by the courts, including a cabinet minister of that time. So there have been developments of that nature that have been taking place there and elsewhere, but the fact remains that there are a number of such cases, and therefore I have been, as chairman of the National Commission of Minorities, strongly advocating the passage of the Communal and Targeted Violence Bill.
Okay, finally, Mr. Habibullah, and after a recent interview of Rahul Gandhi, this issue has come up all over again and is in the news. There are several groups that are demanding some sense of closure. Specifically for 1984, Arvind Kejriwal is asking for an SIT probe. In your opinion, do you think that would help to bring a sense of closure, or perhaps, as the sense coming from the Congress party, they will look into the matter in their own good time? What is your sense? What will bring closure to 1984?
I think, Arvind is a good friend of mine. I mean, I've worked with him on the RTI and so on. But another SIT is not going to do the job. As I mentioned to you, there are reports available. The Marwa Commission report was there. The Ranganath Mishra Commission report was there. Then, as I mentioned to you, the Mittal Committee report and the Rosha Committee report. And I've had detailed discussion with Mr. Rosha, and that was a committee appointed when Mr. VP Singh was Prime Minister, the Poti Rosha Committee. They went into this. They identified persons who were actually responsible. Yes, certain political leaders, action has been taken, and there are cases going on. But the fact also remains that what happened to the policemen who were involved in it? There has to be accountability across the board in this and other cases. If we wish to bring closure, and the nation must wish to bring closure to all of these things, then the action that must be taken must be complete, must be seen to be complete. And the community, which has suffered, must see that action is being taken sincerely against those who were guilty.
Mr. Wajahat Habibullah, for speaking to Newsnight this evening, thank you so much for joining us.